Welcome to the Convo by Design Icon Registry episode for the month of October 2025. Courtney Novogratz has spent her career reimagining spaces that celebrate individuality, family, joy. Alongside her husband, Robert, they've built an iconic brand known for bold style, adventurous projects, and a commitment to living beautifully without pretense. If it were only that easy. In this conversation, Courtney shares her design philosophy, her family-first approach, and how she balances creativity with the business. In this episode of Convo by Design, which I am so happy to present to you. It was my conversation with Courtney Novogratz, and she opened up about her journey as a designer, entrepreneur, and mother of 7. From revitalizing historic properties to curating collections that reflect everyday living. Courtney brings her unique perspective on what it means to design with heart. We discuss the challenges and triumphs of building a brand, her take on authenticity in design, and why storytelling matters just as much as furniture and finishes. We talked about a number of ideas and topics here, and you can check the show notes for all of that. But at the end of the day, I want you to hear this conversation again with Courtney because it was fantastic, and I am so happy to induct the Novogratz into the Convo by Design Icon Registry, which is presented by Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company. Pacific Sales, a huge amount of longtime professionals who love design and architecture as much as you do, which is why it's so fitting that they present this recognition of some of the world's greatest design talent every month here on Convo by Design. And you're going to hear all about it right after this. If you've listened to the show for any amount of time, you've heard me say this, that the most important word in the design industry is service. Product is important, price is important, selection is important, but stellar service is the premier idea that can make all the difference in the success of a project, any project. How design professionals like you demand great service and your favorite brands in one place with expert, knowledgeable, and non-commission sales professionals. It's really important. It means that their only incentive is your satisfaction. Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, has just that with over 60 years of experience in Southern California. Pacific Sales is your destination for exploration, advice, and inspiration. Now, you have the Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home team to help you and offer their Pro Rewards program, which is a trade program unlike any you have experienced before. Earn 3% in Best Buy gift cards, e-gift cards, or 2.5% in rewards checks for every qualified and delivered sale. In addition to special trade pricing, exclusive offers, access to exclusive special events, and so much more than I could possibly tell you about here. And the cherry on top is access to exclusive builder trade incentives from top brands and the stellar service, again, from a company that has been serving the industry for over 60 years. Terms and conditions apply to the Pro Rewards program and builder trade incentives. So visit a Pacific Sales expert at a showroom today for full details and to learn how you can unlock additional savings and benefits. Don't miss out on the opportunity to work with the best of the best. Visit Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home today and elevate your projects to new heights. You're Southern California based.
Actually, no, I'm back in New York City. We were in LA for a few years. We gave it a shot and tried to live on the West Coast, but we came home.
Tell me about that. I like how you phrase it. We gave it a shot, tried to live on the West Coast. Isn't it interesting that, and we'll get to design in a minute, but there is this, like, I am born and raised Southern California. I'm a native Angelino. I'm not living there right now, but it's so funny. Either you love it or you don't. New York, either you love it or you don't. It's very well defined.
Well, I mean, it really is apples to oranges, right? So, my daughter went to USC and stayed when she graduated last June. I mean, she absolutely loves it, and she went kicking and screaming when she was 16. So, I love that we experienced it, because I do feel like if you're fortunate, you should experience both coasts and maybe live in the middle as well. But there is a big difference, and I think it's so unique, and it's great. Both places are completely different. So you're either East Coast or West Coast, I think, at heart.
It's so funny too, because or you live in the middle, and
Right.
I'm in the middle now. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, working on a design house project.
Oh, that's a cool city. People don't realize how cool Tulsa is.
They don't. So you've been.
Oh yeah, I've been. There's actually some great, I think it's Jinx, Oklahoma. There's a cool like town with antiques and stuff nearby. But Tulsa's got great architecture.
It's remarkable architecture. And it's funny because it was basically, after the Glenpool struck, it was all these New York oil men came in and created this little New York City.
Yeah, it's very cool. The Hanson brothers live there too.
That's right. They do. They do.
We know
it's
them.
So and they play at Cain's Ballroom, which is just an amazing venue. They play here all the time. Anyway, I digress. But it's interesting because you started, one of the things that, you started doing was you got into design by purchasing a brownstone and started getting into it. What was that like? Here's why I ask. I feel like we're in this moment in time, not dissimilar to 0809, when huge financial crisis, and when there's huge turmoil like that, people start reevaluating the meaning of life and their purpose and what they're doing. And we're at another moment in time where people are looking at design and realizing the importance of design and architecture in the everyday lives. And so people are starting to look at design and architecture again. And I'm curious, because you had a different focus, and then you find this place and you decide to roll up your sleeves and get into it. And having an experience like that, it will either completely scare you away and you'll never want to do it again, or you fall in love with it. And clearly, you and Robert fell in love with it. What was it about that experience that changed your course?
Exactly. Robert and I, even when we were dating, we shared the same kind of love of antiquing and design and real estate. So that passion was already kind of inside of us. And of course, we started planning our wedding, bought a condemned building, mainly because we knew we wanted a lot of children. We were like, what's a co-op board and a condo? And then there's maintenance fees. And like, this seems crazy. And we knew if we could get an individual building, we could rent it out for parties. We could make it a 2-family home and pull money for the mortgage. And, we just knew we have to figure out a way. And then we learned everything on the job. And in one sense, Josh, we knew exactly what we were doing. And in another sense, we had no clue what we were doing. And we kind of went in with that in mind, and we got 3 bids from contractors, and we couldn't even afford the lowest bid, and just really learned everything on the job, but having a clear vision of what we wanted. And then we had no money to even hang up drapes or curtains or even get furniture. And so we rented all the bedrooms out to my actor friends, and the downstairs garden floor we rented out to Robert's sister. And so we basically, became designers in a sense, where that was our showcase, our showroom, where friends came over and would start kind of saying, oh, can you help us decorate? And we were always that couple, Josh, if we'd hung out together and maybe gone dancing or gone to listen to the Hanson brothers together, the next day we would have been at the flea markets and trying to tag you and bring you along. So, anyway, in one sense, we found our career, or it found us, but we just never stopped from there. That was our kind of launching pad. And then the singer-songwriter, Suzanne Vega, came and rented our top floor out, our the bigger top 3 floors. And we moved down to the garden floor and just started looking for more real estate. and really became house flippers before anyone even knew what that was. And then also building custom homes for other people in downtown Manhattan and taking a kind of spin on what is a traditional brownstone. We then started buying parking lots, gun shops, nightclubs, anything that was a small enough building that big developers passed up, but they were big enough that they could become private homes. And so that's what we did. I mean, we rode our Vespa around, walked the streets, and just tried to find unique property with a price tag we could afford, and then rezoned everything from the city, to get it passed for residential.
It's so interesting. What a remarkably creative way to craft your own career.
Well, we designed the life we wanted, which was a lot of kids in downtown Manhattan. If anytime again, think of Airbnb and all these incredible One Fine Stay and the Plum Guide, all these high-end rental sites, we were renting our home out to see the world all the time. Whether it was for Law and Order, 30 years ago, or even, to another family, we would house swap across the world. We just knew we could make real estate work for us. And that was really a lot of Robert's vision. If we could control the four walls, we could design the life we wanted.
How do you export that vision? So it's one thing to have the vision and to understand what it is that you want. It's another thing entirely to find the clients to pay for that vision. What was the switch that was flipped? What was it? Suzanne Vega moving in first, and then an introduction to other celebrity clientele? What was it?
Well, I think we became friends. I mean, she sang at all our kids' christenings. I had coffee with her 2 weeks ago. I mean, she really did. I think we believed in ourselves, but she also believed in us. And so that definitely helped. She became a renter in that particular Chelsea townhouse for many years, even once we left the garden floor apartment. But I think we called ourselves designers and became designers because we were. And then I remember the first time someone hired us to do a hotel, I felt overwhelmed. And Robert was like, just look at it as a big house. More people will see our work. But we didn't know the language of designing for a hotel. And there was a bigger team and a bigger, way to execute everything. But I think you just literally start and you navigate the best you can. I mean, for example, I'm from South Georgia. And so building in New York City, I think I had mentioned something to my dad, and he goes, you just get a container, get it out front, take all the debris out. Well, the reality in New York City, you pay for a container and you want to put all the trash in it the next day. Every neighbor has thrown their dirty, trash, their mattresses, their TVs, and the next day you walk in and see the container, you walk down the street and you're like, I'm paying for that, so you quickly realize the hustle's real. It's 10 times harder. There is a saying, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And that's in the industry. But I think for us, we also were providing a service and a little kind of creative niche where clients wanted what we had. Our homes were our showroom and our lifestyle is what they wanted, even though they didn't know how to get it. And so we were able to give it to them. And we did 4 houses on one street that the New York Times did an article on us, Josh, and that really brought the people that didn't see the vision before us. We knew it was going to be amazing, but they were crumbling buildings. So the beauty was not there yet. We had to create the beauty. And so many people passed up, to own this private home. But this article did an incredible story. We believed in ourselves and we started building, and they came. They literally then came because we were like, we're going to raise our children here. You can too.
It's so interesting to me, in speaking with a lot of creatives, there's a couple of ways to get into design. You go to school, you intern for another design firm, and then you hang your shingle. Or you love design, you design your house, and then you hang a shingle and you do it that way. It feels like you've kind of restructured that particular model
where you model your own life after something, and then other people have this desire to live the way that you do. And it doesn't mean it's a particular style for you, a style of architecture or design. It just means it's an idea. It's a way that you want to live, which ultimately is the pure essence of design and architecture. It's designing for the way you want to live, not to create this remarkable space that then shapes the way your life to fit the structure.
Right.
I think too, it's this experience that you have where this struggle is real, right? Where you just one example of putting a container out there for debris, and then everyone else is seeing an opportunity. Southern California is one of those, being a native Angelino, love Southern California, grew up there, grew up in the San Fernando Valley in the 80s. I could not think of a better place to grow up at that time. What's really interesting about Southern California is people from New York would come there and just be so surprised at the opportunities. Mm-hmm. It's like, wait a minute, I can put a
Wild
dumpster.
West.
Yeah. And because of that, you would have people come in and say, oh, well, there's an old house. I'm going to tear it down and experiment and build something new. It's like, oh, cool. Well, that might have been a Schindler or a Neutra or
right.
Or
Frank
Wallace
Lloyd
Neff.
Wright. You're right.
And because of that, what was once this great opportunity for experimentation that is Southern California, California in general, it's not like that anymore, because now it's harder to build. It's harder to, you can't even build in with some appliances and some plumbing fixtures because they don't conform. Mm-hmm. And it gets very difficult. So now you look at other opportunities. And I think for someone like you, vision really is the key word, to see an opportunity in something. What happens when it gets challenging and difficult to build in Southern California or to build in New York? Because New York right now, real estate is on fire again. Remember, it was a year ago or a year and a half ago that people said New York City is dead.
Yeah, well, people were we were here. I mean, first with LA, we built redid a 1920s castle, turret-looking castle home in the Hollywood Hills, and you forget there's also what is it? Earthquake, issues and landscape, all those kind of things. We also then did a 1930s Spanish. So, I love the freedom of the out West, but it's also hard. It's also struggles. But I do think when you think of Frank Gehry and all the amazing things he's made, out West, you can create anything you want, which is kind of cool. But it also has its own issues. And then as far as New York, we did see people leaving, but if you've lived long enough, we were here during 9/11. You see people come and go all the time. You see the city, though. For us, I have adult children now. It was a little bit of a cleansing where it became so wealthy that now things, when they left, Bridget, for example, who just moved here, who's sitting next to me, came and is able to afford to take opportunities. Yes, now it's back on top, and real estate in New York will always, be very expensive. But there's artists back in the street, back to what we were talking about earlier, Josh. Robert and I designed the life we wanted. The first time we threw a party and thought, we need live music, but we can't afford it. How can we make that possible? We pulled a street artist from the subway and said, hey, do you want to come play at our party? And so it's really designing the life you want wherever you are. If you're in the middle of the country, if you're in beautiful Tulsa or Los Angeles or New York, I think if you lead with your gut on design, your eye will never lie. So if you see a house that you love, but it's got something about it that spoke to you, but it's falling apart, you'll make it great. Or anything, if you want to redecorate a room, just start and it will reveal itself. And I do realize not everyone has that kind of design eye. That's why I have a job. That's why you love design and are in your business. But I think, people can believe in themselves more than ever. And now there's incredible podcasts like yours and social media. It's not just shelter magazines. There's so much you can see that's visual that can help you create the home you want.
Let's explore that idea a little bit, because now it's not just that things are more expensive. It's that things are relatively unattainable. If you
Yeah.
want, if
You
you
got to
want,
wait 6 months for a refrigerator or longer.
or longer. And what's interesting is where I think many thought, okay, it's kind of peaked, and now things are going to start getting a little bit easier. I think many people are surprised that it's really not. And I don't know that supply chain issues, and I'm so couple of words that I would just like to strike from the vernacular: Zoom, supply chain.
Yeah.
Would love to, but the struggle, again, the struggle is real. And I think what's really fascinating and kind of like your superpower is this ability to craft from within, and to be crafty, and to be unique, and to be resourceful. And the idea of finding a street performer to come in and play at your wedding, it's kind of
party.
like
That was just a party. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, at a party.
Yeah.
Well, and I had another thought. I was thinking that was such a Ted Lasso moment. I don't know if you watched Ted Lasso, but a very, very similar experience. That being said, both LA and New York are much harder to pick now. It's harder.
Yeah.
It's harder to find things. How have you changed your strategy in that regard? Because, it's interesting, just success doesn't necessarily kill the desire to pick and to find things. There's a certain, it's a hunt, it's
the journey that's more fun. I mean, to your point, it's a process, right? So like, we're finishing up a house in New York City. We were building during 9/11, a brand new structure, literally 10 blocks from 9/11. That was hard. This time around, 10 times harder. And I have years of experience since then, but it's still, because of the pandemic, everything just almost have lost everything in a sense with this project. But we know how to go through it, and to have a sense of humor, and to realize things are hard at times. People that are in a successful place have worked to get there. Especially like I see with my younger kids, and they're, where they can just look on their phone. I used to have to go through the yellow pages. Now everything's at your fingertips, but it still can't happen any faster in some things, in some ways, because life happens. But I think you basically have to, which we love, is we're a little bit like gypsies. I'm not going to end at this house. There's another house around the corner, because that's what we love to do, is create homes. Even with like writing a book, there's a beginning, middle, and end. And there's only really one point of view. So that's one book, and that's one house. You can't have every style under one roof. But Robert and I love to create homes, and we love to create things. Sometimes we've done entire blocks, which was a gift. We did 2 homes on one street, 4 homes on one street. And so I think, for us, the journey is the most fun, not moving in and having that party at the end of the day. That is fun and rewarding. But I also talk about entertaining. Setting up for a party is just as fun as the party itself. If you have that passion and you love what you do, which is what we love to like, what flowers, what alcohol, what music, what food, all of that, what decorations. And then there's the celebration after. And I think people lose sight of that, or they don't realize it's not really hard, but it is work, and it's fun work. I don't think people always get that, even like holding through clients' hands. We're doing a couple's house on Long Island, and they're a wonderful family. But a lot of times Robert and I are trying to keep their marriage together. We're trying to remind them, you found each other for a reason. You can pick a paint color, and there is no such thing as a dream home. It's your home. There's no perfect place. So, reminding them to have fun as they're talking about finances and their home, which brings out so much anxiety. I get that. I mean, we live in that kind of constant stress, but to let them enjoy the process.
I think it's funny because having done the show for a while, the idea of designer as psychologist and architect as psychiatrist it sort of comes up quite often. and never more so has it been as important as it is right now. Because to your point, you think about the stress that, and it's funny when you think about it, things like planning a wedding, planning a party, a graduation, designing a home, building a home, they shouldn't be stressful. It should be an absolute joy. It's not. It is one of the most stressful things in life because of all the decisions that come into play. Now, in addition to that, there's all of the things that one has to think about, working on the project we're working on, ordering,
timing.
Yeah. And specifying product in August and September of last year. And only now getting deliveries scheduled and finding out that the shipping cost that it was in September has now doubled. These are things that you just sort of have to take into account now. The business has changed. And because the business has changed so rapidly, professionals, designers like you, your roles have to have changed as well. So, how are you coping with that? It's your stress as well. How are you coping with that? Are you leaning in more on local workrooms to take away some of that pressure from deliveries and product supply chain? Are you finding your vendors more supportive? Do you feel like the industry as a whole has provided more support for you as a designer? Because I hear both sides of it.
Right. Well, so I feel like every industry has shifted and changed, and life is, whether there's a pandemic or not, life is always shifting and changing, right? We've seen with technology. So if you're lucky enough and fortunate enough to still be doing what you love and doing it long enough, you have to constantly keep evolving and changing. And so I hold on to that all the time. My husband and I, when things get really hard, really frustrating. And then with clients, it is trying to just be as honest as you can be. We want it to look effortless and smooth, but you have to also be honest and say, this is the reality. And what I try to always break it down is, for example, if you're not able to get certain tiles in and we're going to cut costs and go in a different direction with other tiles, or let's just choose another one that we can get in time. I know that wasn't the plan, but we need to make a change. I think you'd literally just say, these two tile choices, they're not going to make you any happier. It's just a choice. There's not a right or wrong, but decisions have to be made if you want to get into your house in time, or if you want to, have that celebration or whatever is coming up. And so it's really just spelling it out and saying, it's going to be okay. I keep reminding, people don't always want to hear it's not their dream house, but it's a home. At the end of the day, it's how you live and how you respect it and enjoy it. And it's also the process to get you into that home. And it's your life, so, but it's at the end of the day, are you guys still in a relationship and enjoying the process and, involving your children to some degree and recognizing that there's going to be some hardships, literally, something may be delivered. And we had some issues recently with one of the drape guys, and we got a complaint. And the reality is things happen. So I'm not going to shelter them from really hard times. I'm going to say, but we can resolve this, and trying to have a sense of humor about it, trying to be as honest and upfront in the smoothest way. And then just literally getting it done, executing it, taking care of it, picking up whatever, has fallen through the cracks or not being delivered. I mean, anyone that ever ordered anything from Europe knew the month of August is always on vacation. So now it's the whole world has stopped, but not for a vacation, sadly, because of delays and because of, everything being late, sadly, or lack of inventory. I mean, think of even across the country, homes, things were flying left and right, and now there's no inventory. People that left urban areas to go rural, people that said, now I can maybe afford to live in urban cities, so it's just been a shift. And I think my hope is to remain grounded, to realize we are in a service industry. We're providing homes for people, design services, and it's really emotional stuff. I mean, even in our own product line at Shop the Novogratz, my customer service friend who helps run it with us, she was hearing such devastating stories over maybe a $200 or $300 futon. It's not about the futon. It's about what's going on in their lives. And sometimes you can't cure all of that, but you can just hold their hand for a brief moment that feels like, enough to make them calm down about the futon and look at the bigger picture.
Isn't it? It's interesting too. I think, as we're talking about design, psychology, and all of the things, happiness, and all of the things that are, spaces should make you happy. I feel like over the years, the shelter publications have created this anxiety and stress because there's a feeling that when you hire a designer, when you have a home professionally designed, that it should be something that you would see in the pages of AD or any of the other shelter publications. And it's created sort of this false narrative that to be happy, you have to have perfection.
Right.
And you have to have something out of the pages of, the shelter pubs, because that's what design is. And that's what you strive for. It's that whole, keeping up with the Joneses all over again, instead of realizing that, maybe for you, happiness is a place to just plop and flop and be comfortable. Maybe it doesn't have to, maybe that is the design, is the functionality of it. And, do you feel like we've gotten a little bit away from that? And is this maybe an opportunity to return?
And that's a great question. I mean, the reality for me is, if I come over, Josh, to your house, do you collect things? Who are you? What is your home about? That is most important. It is a feeling. When you go to someone's house, or let's say you even go to a cool design hotel, you may not remember the wallpaper or the color of the bedspread. You remember a feeling you had there, and that's what stays with you. And so I constantly ask someone, how do you live? Do you like to entertain a lot? Do you have a lot of children like me? I keep hooks out in the open. So I don't say you have to have a coat closet, just throw all the hooks out. To the point someone had stopped by and said, is this a school, like a delivery guy? And I'm like, nope, just my home. But my kids hang up their coats. They know where it is. If you come over, Josh, you know exactly where to throw your bag and make yourself at home. There's been times we decorated for a bachelor, and we found out in a duffel bag in his closet, he had all these tickets from all these incredible events all over the world. Carnival in Rio, Super Bowls, just literally Running with the Bulls in Spain, all these kind of ticket stubs and things thrown in a duffel bag. And I was like, this is so cool about you. This needs to be celebrated. This needs to be out for people to see. And so Robert and I found this old kind of clear display case and threw them all in there. And we were like, continue to add to it. And just like if someone stopped over, they'd be like, oh, what is that? It's just, so it's saying to people, there are no rules when it comes to design. If you want 2 end tables that match, go for it. If you don't, it doesn't matter. I mean, we've lost a lot of jobs because we don't have that pedigree or, professional side to us that, all the, diplomas, or we didn't go to design school. And that's okay, because that person most likely wants someone that's going to take them to a showroom, buy the whole showroom, play it safe. We're going to be like, hey, do you have an art collection? Why don't you start one? Do you have something that was, maybe a piece of furniture from your parents? Why don't you reuse that? Is it dated? Let's lacquer it. Let's update it. Let's bring it. That's the soul to your house, is something old, and let's get something new. But again, it's having people, I hope, that believe in the fun of decorating, no matter if they're casual or if they're more, fancier, so to speak. it should be really fun, and it should like not be intimidating. And I feel like things have become so intimidating that it's filled with anxiety, and life doesn't have to be like that.
No, it's so true. And that's kind of the point, is realizing that it doesn't have to be like that. And that's why the value of designers. That's why I started doing this show 9 years ago. Is I've always been a huge fan of design and architecture. I love design and architecture, but I realized early on that I didn't possess the skill or the talent to do it professionally. So as a journalist, you do the next best thing. I think it's interesting too that you create your shop. So you have an online store, Shop Novogratz, and I'm curious your thoughts on being the curator of a shop and what you put into your shop and why you put it there and how you source and why you source what you do. What's the curation process for you? Not as a designer for a specific client, but as a showroom owner now, a digital showroom owner, and what you put there and why you put it there.
Well, and I agree that I just feel so kind of fortunate that we can run in both worlds. We do super high-end stuff, and then we do really affordable, great things, because everyone that has good taste, no matter what your income is, you want cool things. And so, sometimes, more expensive does not mean better. And so Robert and I when we made a mindful choice to sell really affordable pieces and bring those to the market in a box. Now, this was even before a pandemic, where we were bringing furniture to your home in a box. Not towels, not small soft goods, but actual furniture with a toolkit, with instructions that would empower you, that you can build it yourself and decorate yourself and have this beautiful home space. And I love that it's a box, because if it's your first apartment in New York City, you can have it walk up 5 stories, a 5-story walk up, and it will actually fit. They don't have to cut the sofa in half. It will fit in your apartment. But for us, it's constantly saying, what kind of fabrics do we want to get it at a price point? The legs have to be certain size because to fit in the box. All of those things have been really fun. Also, not always easy. And trying to come up with great product, as far as wrought iron beds to fabric beds to different size sofas, chairs with arms, chairs without arms, thinking of small spaces, thinking of bigger spaces, desk. It's really just been amazing journey so far to get it the right way. And we're still not fully there, but it has so many different layers and legs that I feel like someone can curate their whole house through shopping with us. And it won't look just like their neighbors. Think of like IKEA. It was a go-to place that was great, and you could always get something, but you knew it was IKEA. As soon as you walked in someone's home, you knew it. We have those same prices, even better quality, but it can be different looks. It could be boho chic. It could be, traditional, modern. There's an array of a collection of furniture. And that's because through the years, we've been together 30 years, we've had an array of clients. And so it's really hopefully offering people to design for themselves. And we've done a lot of the work, and we constantly keep evolving. We've offered art, outdoor furniture, great indoor, outdoor rugs, just really everything that we need for our own house, our own home. We hopefully create it and then bring it to market, and also put the test. If it survives my house, it's going to survive yours. I promise you that.
What would you, is it an ongoing process, your sourcing and finding the right products? Is that fun for you? Is the curation process part of the fun? Or is it something that you feel like you should do because it's a brand extension that makes sense? By the way, there's no wrong answer, Sometimes being able to share the joy with an online store, with a virtual digital showroom, it allows you to expand your reach. But sometimes being a shop owner, it definitely carries its own series of headaches.
Well, I mean, agreed. So we have pretty much full-time jobs: our family, our real estate and flipping and all of that we love, and then our brand. And so it's full throttle all the time. The awesome thing is, like Robert, if he sees something, say maybe we were in Hudson, New York this past weekend antiquing, and there was this incredible daybed. And so he's like, oh, we should make that. It was from, I think, like the 70s, but the way it flipped and turned and all these things, he's like, we should make that at a great price, and it'll be delivered in a box to your home. And so it's a take on the past. Now we have to now actually get that executed and figure out the cost and all of that. And that we rely on our team, our vendors. They're amazing. They've been doing this for way longer than we have. And so it'll be back and forth of choosing, like, for example, some of our furniture doesn't actually have piping, but it looks like it has piping. It doesn't actually have nail heads, but it's tufted. So we just give and take to get things to that price point. And then there's employees and all of that fun stuff to deal with. But I mean, we're still in it and still feel excited every day, even with some of the obstacles and hardships. We did a big photo shoot last week for the brand, and we had some of our children in it and some of their friends, which was really fun. My son that's at NYU had all his creative friends come over. My kids in high school came. My middle school kid, who now looks like he's in high school, came. And all of our employees were there. And we really mix family and work together. And so we do expose ourselves quite a bit, but we have a lot of fun. And we've become good friends with photographers, with our vendors. They flew in from Montreal, and we just really kind of try to, again, look at the ultimate goal and how we can all lean on each other and how we use our whole village to get there.
There's so much to unpack with what you just said. One of the things, and I love that we can talk about this, I don't get an opportunity to really delve deep into this with many guests, because the idea of branding, I don't think most of the creatives in the industry understand the full concept of branding. It's not social media. It's not your look, your style, your clients, your press, your publicity. It's all of it. And sometimes all of it it's hard to think about all of it at the same time. It's like looking at the design of a house and thinking, okay, here's my designed house. Well, you can't do that. You got to look at each room individually, and then product within each room individually. And how does it flow, and what does it do? And talk to me a little bit about the brand and about the brand strategy. Your brand is very well defined, and the definition comes from sculpting. It's almost like water on sandstone. Over hundreds of thousands of millions of years, it crafts this amazing shape that you couldn't do physically if you wanted to. It just has to happen over time. How has your brand developed? Have there been missteps? And if there are, how do you refocus? Because I think a lot of people will look at brand and not really understand that it is the long game. But clearly you got that early on.
It is a long game. And the fact that, again, Robert and I have 7 kids, so we're not going to stop working. We can't. And we live in expensive cities. But what else are we going to do? We're not going to go play golf. So, we are supposed to continue the grind or the journey or the work. I mean, the wonderful thing is now my adult children can really bring so much energy and ideas. And so your question is kind of talking about the brand, is it's multi-layered. it is so many moving parts, similar to how my family is 9 people, but we all have different personalities. We all bring something to the table. And so every relationship, from our furniture maker to our relationship with the shade store, to our relationships with temp paper, to our rug vendors, Momini, to the furniture Durrell, who's based in Montreal, the ones I told you that came down. It's really constantly keeping things honest and communicating. So, for example, the shoot last week, it's back to school. Let's tell that story, what feels authentic and real. I've been doing back to school a long time. And so I can just tap into those resources of, what have I always needed? Was it moving someone off to college? Is it just elementary school all the way up to high school? What does back to school look like? Is it my adult children now getting their first apartments? And so our brand really reflects kind of our real life, what's happening, and shifting and changing with that. I mean, think about social media to TikTok to all those things, to our first book and now our 4th book. It's all of those pieces that tell the big story, which is ultimately our family brand. We wanted to design something overseas, and so that dream came true. And so we were able to make that a moment. And so everything we do is just naturally, or in an organic way, moving us forward to all the things Robert and I've wanted for our own lives. And then we're giving it out to everyone as part of the brand. So it's just kind of an extension of who we are. But there is strategy to be mindful of that, of like, what's next year look like, what's 5 years from now look like. When there's been a mistake, we've sent a catalog one time that looked like a yearbook, and spent money on that, and an actual physical thing. And so then trying to just say, should we do that and repeat that next year or not? And people need to touch and hold things, but then they also want a digital format, and just constantly weighing out what is the best move to make, and that in itself is also a full-time job, and you're only as good as your team. And so what does that team look like? Does that need to shift and change? Is someone leaving? Well, ultimately the brand will still stay even if someone needs to leave. But that can be scary. That means more work for us at times, and so it's ultimately, at the end of the day, a work in progress, and hopefully a beautiful way.
So what's next? Travel, events. It's funny because, having kids at all different levels of school, traveling for pleasure probably is not as easy right now as it once was. But as far as the events, now that events are open again, now that we're traveling, what's next for you? Are you going anywhere? Are you speaking anywhere? Are there any panels coming up?
Exactly. Well, this last week we went Thursday night apartment therapy. It's kind of something for a month long in the city in New York, and it's called Small Cool Spaces. And so we took one of the small spaces and designed for the Novogratz. And so we went there. Maxwell's a friend who owns apartment therapy and runs that, and has been amazing. And we actually talking about how in our industry, it's a slow burn, but it's something we love. So if you love design, it's always going to be in your life, and you just keep designing the life you want and the career you want. Where some other industries seem like overnight success, and not as tangible as our industry. So that was last week. We have our products that come out with Bed Bath & Beyond, which has been amazing. I actually went to the one in Chelsea, and that was a great feeling just to see it on the floor. And that was the shoot I was telling you about, the back to school shoot that will launch this summer. And travel's always, even with the pandemic, been important to us. And travel can be a drive somewhere new that we've never gone to, or jumping on a plane and going to another country. So that will always be in our lives. We will travel this summer, thank goodness, overseas. And we're finishing our current house that we'll be moving into, which has all of our latest collection of drapes and shades with the shade store. So I'm really excited about that. And what you can see behind me, Josh, I'm in the middle of moving out of this townhouse is why it seems so empty. Hopefully we're moving soon. But again, it's the gas turned on by New York City, all of these obstacles that, it's not our first rodeo, but sometimes it's hard to keep picking yourself up, and getting back to work.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I love that. It just out of curiosity, when you went out to Southern California that first time, did you drive?
You know what's so funny? We flew in our daughter's road trip and drove.
Okay.
But we had to fly because I was waiting for the movers on the other side. But I have driven across country, and our family has. And my son Breaker, who performed, he's in a band. He performed in the South and out West, and he had to drive both ways as one should at his age. And he popped a tent along the way, and just like to hear my kids' experience driving was also really fun, because I drove when I was younger with my sister, and we have definitely driven across country a few times, but we flew that particular time.
I only ask because I feel like for you and Robert, your family, the Novogratz, it feels like it's one of those things that is like totally up your alley that you would do and thoroughly enjoy it. I've done that so many times. The idea of the road trip and design just sort of go hand in glove.
Yes, exactly.
Especially because it's become so hard to pick in most major metropolitan cities. And then when you actually get out and start exploring the country, you find
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Ree Drummond, I decorated for her, who's in Oklahoma, on the Food Network, in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. We went out, and it's in the middle of nowhere, but we made sure we found the antique places, which was great. Even if I go to Georgia, or if we go anywhere, there's great antiques all over. And it's really telling, like, for example, Brimfield in Massachusetts, which is 3 times a year, a big flea market, as opposed to Round Top in Texas, you're going to get completely different looks. The same way the Long Beach flea market or Pasadena flea market, you get a whole flare of things there. It's just really so important if you're someone that seeks and loves the hunt, to get out to these smaller towns or rural areas, because there's really cool, groovy stores everywhere. One of our favorite antique stores is Uncommon Objects in Austin. So every time we go there, it's always great, but it's harder and harder. I mean, you can even go to the Paris flea markets now, and it's hard to find the cool stuff, because it's great where you can be online and go to First Dibs or Cherish or all these sites and find unique lighting or unique pieces of furniture. But that means it's harder to find the one-of-a-kind stuff because they're being sold online. But we really love the hunt. I love to go to different markets all over the world because you're going to find unique pieces or unique paintings or, little tchotchkes that really tell who you are.
Yeah. And it feels like there's an opportunity right now, because with so many people who have left major cities to go find other metropolitan cities in which to live, when that happens, then they bring, money from bigger cities, and you start renovating, and then certain things just sort of find their way into the marketplace or on Craigslist, or that's when it gets fun again.
Yeah. Well, and I think because of TV shows, right?
Yeah.
In design, that were never there. I mean, even when we did our first show, it just design shows. There was a food scene, but there wasn't a design scene. And now, it's like really people are sitting down around the table, around the TV, and watching home makeover shows, which is amazing. And it's great. And it's exploded. And so people are really saying, oh, I need to fix up my house, which is awesome. And now there's all these incredible ways to do that. So yeah, I'm excited that there's just so much stuff to hopefully use to decorate with. I just got to get my hands on all of them. And there's so many homes. There's so many homes that need love and care. I have love affairs with houses. I've had to walk away from so many that maybe had a bigger price tag or was in a city I didn't live in. I couldn't do that one. No.
Yeah, but that's the fun of it. And this was great, Courtney. I so appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me today. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.
This wraps up another episode of the Convo by Design Icon Registry, a celebration and recognition of true masters in the art of design and architecture, and the mastery it encompasses in the pursuit of making better the lives of those who these remarkable individuals serve, and giving back along the way. Thank you, Courtney, for making the time to sit down with me, and congratulations to you and Robert. Just amazing. Some of the things I truly enjoyed were the ideas regarding world-class storytelling skills. Your work is exceptional, and the branding is masterful. Thank you for listening to Convo by Design. Thank you to my partner sponsors, Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, for presenting the Convo by Design Icon Registry, and Convo by Design partner sponsors, TimberTech and Design Hardware and Loam AI. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for taking the time to listen. I couldn't do this without you. Wouldn't want to. I hope this show helps you stay motivated, inspired, and focused so you can rise above the chaos.